How's everybody doing today? Welcome to Facebook Live. Yours truly. So peace. There we go. Peace. What is peace? Well, it's more than just the avoidance of conflict, because conflict, it's human nature. There's always going to be some area in which there's a dispute, there's a discussion, something about whether or not there's an equity, a balance in an exchange, whether the exchange is for goods, for services. There's an awful lot of people that, you know, are happy with what they get for the energy they put into something. We work, we earn our money, we pay our bills, and as long as our bills get paid with the money we earned, we're generally more than happy with the situation, right? Yeah. However, every so often we end up in a situation where greed or something else enters the field. And all of a sudden, somebody isn't getting what they feel their value is worth. Whether that was by intentional exploitation or whether or not what they provided simply wasn't worth the value they thought it was, we get those issues. And when it comes time to look for peace, I think it's really important to understand, the communication. Being able to talk to people is a critical part of establishing that peace, of finding that balance so that we can all move forward. Now, sometimes finding peace with yourself means leaving all of those people behind that screwed you. And that's a legitimate methodology for finding peace. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me a third time, it's a life choice. You know, but finding peace in those situations sometimes does involve leaving behind those people who are toxic, in your life, in your community, in your politics. So we got people right now that are suffering. And a lot of those people are suffering because, well, they haven't been given a chance to sit at the table. They've been told to accept what's been given them. It's like, no, you weren't at the table, so you just accept the crumbs, that are left at the end of the meal. Well, if you're not calling them to the table, just giving them the crumbs after everybody else has eaten the lion's share of everything, is just asking to get left out when they go out and build their own table. Yeah. If you're not inviting people to the table, don't get upset when they build their own. Which is what some of you are doing. People are out there finding ways around the rules you created. They're finding ways to make life happen in spite of the obstacles that have been put in the way. And some of you are getting upset about that. It's like, how dare you get around the obstacles I made? Yeah. Be careful putting too many obstacles in the way. You start cutting down on their options. Some people get a little testy about that. But for the most part, peace, go find your own way, build your own table, create your own community. It happens. on a fairly regular basis. You know, you pick up, you leave California, you move to Idaho. You leave California, you move to Texas. You leave California, you move to Arizona. You know, you move off to create your own little community somewhere. Yeah. Of course, part of finding peace means don't create conflict where you go. You know, if you realize you find conflict everywhere you go, maybe the problem's you. Yeah, there are times when a little self-reflection is a good thing. You know, is everybody mad at you? Or just toxic people mad at you? Anyway, so we got a few people out there watching out in Facebook land. Facebook, Twitter, all of ya, how you doing out there today? Like, share, comment. By all means, please contribute to the campaign, contribute to the situation. 2 more weeks. Yeah, we're there, man. 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks. November 3rd. Elections coming up. We still have yet to talk about the things that are important to you. You guys listen to me ramble on all the time about the things that are important to me. You know, and while that's fair, you want to know what my priorities are when you elect me to Congress. I get that. But the thing is, as your representative, you know, I need to go in and I need to do more than just represent my interests, you know, my priorities. I need to take care of you as well. And, you know, that is a goal. You know, create a society we can all live in, you know, where we are at peace with our neighbors. Yes, we are at peace with our neighbors, whether that's internationally, between the states, or even in our own communities and subdivisions. Being at peace with our neighbors is a good thing. You know, and sometimes, you know, we have to make compromises, you know, because they have to be the right compromises. They actually have to be compromises rather than concessions. Yeah, we don't like concessions because concessions represent an imbalance of power, right? Thank you, Jessica. Love you. You know, so there's a difference between compromise and concessions. You know, we don't want to make concessions. We need to get something in exchange that's of equal value for what it is we give up. Yeah, that's the way we negotiate. That's the way we come to an equitable, you know, resolution so that everybody feels that they've walked away from the table with something. You know, rather than old fat cat getting 99 cookies and then telling the union worker that the poor guy is going to take his last one, which is what we've seen over the last 50 years, is the balance has shifted. We've definitely noticed some people have been left out in the cold, haven't been invited to the table. There is something nice about this. Got the squirrels, you know, running along the fence line back behind my shoulder. Yeah. So let's go ahead. While we're waiting for things, garden gnome things. So it's coming up on winter. We've already had 2 frosts. We managed to preserve things through. We got the tent up. We're probably going to have another one this week, probably on Thursday. You another dip in the temperature where we can expect some frost and probably end up losing the tomato plants. We have the shell up on our hoop house, but we didn't get it set up right. So we're missing some key things in order to make sure that it stays in place. And none of us actually want to babysit it through the night at this point. So we're actually looking at letting things close down, letting the frost go ahead and take everything, then start doing the prep work for next summer or next spring. We've already learned a lot as far as what it is we want to do with our garden. We need to go in and basically make some wholesale changes. Our greenhouse, our hoop house, needs to be moved, and we know exactly what we need to do to actually set it up right this next time. Follow the instructions. Yes, I know. We didn't exactly do a good job of following the instructions. Of course, we weren't really handed any instructions. It was sort of, this is what it looked like 2 years ago, and run with it. Well, since then, we found some instructions. We know exactly what we need to do this next spring when we go in and set everything up and we start doing the prep. So, here in about 2 weeks after the election's over, I'll start taking donations for the garden, in order to get the garden up and running the way it's set up. The landlady, yes, the one I'm doing the sharecropping with, has expressed interest in changing exactly what it is we're planting, which is good considering, most of the benefit for this, was hers. She's the one who's been doing the canning. Yes. Hardcore cottagecore. Yes, for those of you who aren't familiar with cottagecore, yes, she is hardcore cottagecore. It's all about the canning. It's all about the decor, very farmish, as far as setting the garden up and getting it going right. So, the whole cottagecore garden gnome thing, yeah, it's been fun this summer. But after the election's done and I can close out my campaign, I'll be able to set up donations so that we can get the garden up and running again. Take it slow and steady through the winter, get everything prepped and all that. But that's going to be a change. No, I'm not going to stop this. I mean, it's working, right? We're talking, we're having communication. I'm not going to stop this, November 3rd. We're going to keep it going because we like talking about politics. We like talking about peace. We do, right? We like talking about peace. We like talking about making things happen. We like talking about making change. Reason why is because the sharing of ideas create the energy. You speak it, and once you speak it, you can start to make it so. You got to start with sharing the ideas first. So, moving on from garden gnome things, now that we've talked a little bit about the garden, which I think everybody should do. We've gotten a little bit distant from our food sources. Everybody thinks that everything just automatically shows up on grocery store shelves. Not really the case, folks. We've, roll it back. I grew up in farm country. Most of you in Idaho, especially in the Ada County, Treasure County, Treasure Valley, you're living in a house that used to be on a farm. Back when Boise was a city of all of, 125,000 people in the Treasure Valley. Wow, those days are gone, long gone. We continue to see people move in all the time. We haven't planned for it. We're already running into water shortages. People have had to dig their wells deeper, in order to get water when they're not on city water. Our city water's even running into trouble right now. They can't even recycle it. They can't, fix it fast enough. They're trying to find a way to dump the effluents, the stuff that they can't actually transform, purify, clean, before it goes back into the Boise River or some other place. They're trying to find other ways to dispose of it, so they don't have to make the upgrades right now to the water treatment facilities that we got. Boise City actually owns water treatment facilities in Garden City. But, the whole water treatment thing, we're having trouble keeping up with that. We either need to expand the water treatment or build another water treatment facility and start spreading out the damage. But the thing is outside of city water, people who are living out in the county have actually had to dig their wells deeper. The wells aren't maintaining anymore. It's a problem, and we still got more people moving in. Sooner or later, we're going to be running out of the well water, and the city water won't be able to keep up, and we're just not, building the infrastructure fast enough to keep up with the influx of people. It's about balance, folks. It's about balance. We've let everything get out of balance right now. We got people that are paying $500,000 for a 2,000 square foot house that won't have the water, to keep clean, potable water in their houses, and that could happen in less than 5 years right now. And at the rate climate change, and yes, folks, I'm not going to dispute with you whether it's man-made or natural. Climate change is happening. It is. And it's causing disruptions in water tables, in food distribution, in food growth. Doesn't matter whether it's natural or man-made. Climate change is happening. And we need to be able to adapt. Best way to adapt is decentralization, because if we keep sending everything back to Washington, D.C., for Washington, D.C. to make up its mind before we take action in our local communities, we got a problem. Because if you haven't noticed, Washington, D.C. takes a long time to make up its mind about something. Cut Washington, D.C. out of the circuit. Keep our money in our community, let our communities make the decisions they need to make the adaptations they need to make, put the people to work. However, if you want to do it socialized, if you want to incentivize it through private companies, you want to stick to the mixed economy model that's sort of held up fairly well for the last 100 years, you got options. But if you're dependent upon Washington, D.C. to make those decisions for you, it's going to hurt long before it starts getting better. Just a fact. We need to decentralize, folks. We need to decentralize, especially with all the changes that are coming. Idaho's pretty free right now. Our Department of Environmental Quality, it's fairly adaptable. Governor Little and the DEQ basically went through and did some wholesale butchery of our DEQ laws, cleaned up the stuff that OSHA hasn't cleaned up yet, done some other things. Governor Little got to go to Washington, D.C. and talk about how he chopped everything up. He sold it a little bit better than I would have. Well, done is done, right? So we got a trimmed book as far as regulations go. Hopefully you'll get me to Washington, D.C. so I can do the same thing legitimately through active ungovernance, rather than this passive-aggressive BS that our legislature pulled here this last year. That was some passive-aggressive BS. Got the job done, but it was passive-aggressive. And when you're doing things in a passive-aggressive way, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it with intent. You're not doing it with cooperation. You're literally saying, let's let the marriage counselor decide. Couples therapy. Dude, a friend of mine says, marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Pick your hard. You know, if you can't get along with the other house to where you decide to be passive aggressive, little twink about things, and you decide to dump it all in the lap of the marriage counselor, yeah, that's not active governance. That's not active ungovernance. That's not doing what you were elected to do. That's not doing what you were expected to do when you ran for the office. You know. So for those of you who are looking at an incumbent this year, I know it sucks because some of you are stuck with the incumbent or the Democrat. You don't have a libertarian representing you or running in the district. You don't have a third party running in the district. You know, you don't have somebody who's actually stepping outside of that duopoly thing, you know, where you got your gun control liberals and your holy roller, you know, passive aggressive, super negligent, absentee father figure GOP candidate who, you know, is, yeah. You can do better. You can do better. You know, make it work. You got choices, a lot of choices this year. Actually, step out. Look at your candidates. Understand where their priorities are. Understand whether or not their priority is making sure you get the best for your money possible, or you get your money back. At this point, considering the way government's running at national and state and local, let's get your money back. Because they aren't doing right by you. Not in any way, shape, or form. You know, when you're losing 25 to 30%, some of you are losing 40% of your income to taxes, whether it's a combination of income tax and sales tax and government fees and, you know, miscellaneous other things, you know, as those taxes and fees and state things continue to add up, you know, and less money is left in your pocket at the end of the month, provided any money is left in your pocket at the end of the month. You know, and you're not getting what you paid for. Okay. Let's take a look at things right now. West Data, how are you feeling right now? You know, this one's a tough one for me. Let's go ahead and talk West Data School District. Okay. West Data School District. Right now, it's going through a teacher strike. Okay? Teacher strike. This is Idaho. This is a right to work state. Just hire new teachers. Yeah. Well, see, that's one of those funny things. When they went and did the whole right to work thing, somehow public unions actually managed to get exempted from the process, which is why we have a police union and a firemen's union and a teachers union. You know, public unions. It's why we have a state employees union. It's why we have a federal employees union. These are all public unions sanctioned by the state that said that private unions couldn't function the same way the public unions do. Okay. Now, that said, I am not anti-union. I love unions, especially local unions. The way unions work with the apprenticeship programs, the way they make those things happen. And that's one of those issues right now that's coming up with the presidents. We've seen Biden say, we're going to support the union and send union programs, all of this money and resources. Yet Biden was part of the administration, and the Senate's, long before that helped create the situation that has dissolved the unions over the years. It's weakened their strength. Meanwhile, we got Trump, who has had some contradictory effects on the unions. So who really supports the unions more? Okay. Here's the thing. I'm a libertarian. Thing is even if I were green, if I had to choose between the third parties I was going to run for, because we all know I'm not going to run for, the duopoly. Jesus, duopoly is corrupt as hell. You can't change the institutional inertia of an organization that is large as either of them and is corrupt. So you got to start small and you got to start taking a look at the philosophy. Whether I look at it as a libertarian or look at it as a green, okay, Howie Hawkins right now. Howie Hawkins is a very pro-union. He's a union organizer. Angela Walker, his vice presidential candidate, co-partner, also union. She's a Teamster. And both of them have been organizers since way back. The problem I have with the way they've decided things is they like the national unions. They like the centralized national control, which is putting the vanguard of the Workers' Party in charge of everything the workers do, which doesn't actually give the workers control over anything. It doesn't. Yeah, let's be honest. The Wobblies, the Teamsters, United Steelworkers, all of these, every one of them that has a national architecture, national structure, has a hierarchy base where the people in charge at the top, even for the top 2 or 3 rungs, they're managers. They're not workers. They're not employees. They're management with a disconnect with the people they've been hired to represent. Just raw facts. Which is one of the reasons why So, the idea behind both the Libertarian and the Green Party is decentralization. We need to decentralize the power structures. Okay. I support unions as long as they're local. The locals understand the community. The locals understand the local economy. Local unions, awesome. Local programs, they train the kids to know the skills that they need through the apprenticeship programs to work in the economies they work in. Bingo. We got union shops that are beginning to rebuild themselves where it's union-based apprenticeship programs. Yes, they still have to go through state school certifications for some of them. Pick up an associate's degree in electrician in electrical work or in carpentry or engineering or something to go with, their journeyman cert, upon graduation or after their 4 years of apprenticeship. Yeah. We got a lot of local shops that are working with that, local apprenticeships, and the apprenticeship programs, done a pretty good job at doing the exchange of information, circulating things around. So the unions, especially locals, especially when they have a robust education network where they're doing the lateral communications, and I'm talking lateral, not up and down, not through the hierarchies, but if the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers in Boise is working with developing a education program with the IBEW out of Duluth, they can do that. They're talking back and forth. They're developing, sharing experiences, doing best of class learning. And this is being taught and promoted by people who are at the lowest level. They're doing a lateral exchange of information. I love that idea. It's, open source liberty, open source organization. Whether you call it open source, whether you call it organization, whether you call it liberty, the ability to maintain that lateral communication and avoid the building of the hierarchies. Yes. Lateral, good. Hierarchies, bad. Most of you in the Green Party can agree with that. Almost everybody who's an anarchist, you're 100% on board. Libertarians, some of you still got this minarchist leaning where you think somebody needs to be up on top. Yeah. But yeah. But the thing is, you start taking a look at that and you need to start doing the decentralization. You can't continue to move these power structures, create these hierarchies where all of them are centered too far away from the local economies. Our corporate structures right now, Walmart, we got Walmart in nearly every state of the union. Okay, all the profits from Walmart go back to Arkansas. Doesn't make much sense. Work with your local companies, work with your local co-ops, work with your local employee-owned, even work with your local entrepreneurs. Boise's got several small shops, small grocery stores, admittedly they're boutique-y. We got the Asian markets, the halal markets, the kosher markets. I think here in Boise we even got if you ever want to see a really miserable store, walk into a Seventh-day Adventist store. Okay. They sell you what you need. They do. What you want is there if you like Seventh-day Adventist food. But I mean, talk about bare bones. Yeah. But take a look at the markets. We got, Boise. We got lots of markets like that. Nampa. Nampa is great because you also have an awful lot of cultural markets there as well. Immigrants have grown up in the area. We got a couple Latin. Yeah. We got God. I'm going to say it. You got some Latin-owned butchers and grocers over in Nampa and Caldwell that are continuing to do business. They've been able to maintain business. They've actually worked out contracts with several of the local farmers over there, local ranchers, being able to do some great things. They were actually able to maintain their beef supplies while all the stores were running out. Remember that back in March? Yeah. Your local butchers were still doing pretty good. They were able to keep themselves busy through the entire, downswing, the food service, but we got that. Support your local entrepreneurs, support your local co-ops. They're good for you. They're good for the community. And for those folks who like to talk about economy of scale, and if it was truly economy of scale, Walmart wouldn't need a 10-year tax deferment in order to compete with the local businesses. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's it for me tonight, folks. Thanks a lot for joining me. Those of you who did. Elizabeth, Jessica, appreciate the participation this evening. In the meantime, family, friends, community. As long as you got those three things, we can get through anything, folks. Live long and prosper, right? Peace. See you tomorrow night.